You have always identified as an empath. For so long, that single word was a sanctuary. It explained your sensitivity, your deep feelings, the way you could walk into a room and feel the weather of every soul inside it. It meant you weren't crazy, you weren't broken, you were just an empath. But now, something is shifting. Now that you have boundaries, now that you have found the sacred fire of your anger, you may feel a quiet sense of dislocation, a nagging question in the back of your mind. If I am not just gentle, if I am not just a peacekeeper, does this label still fit? What if the label you thought was your identity was actually just the description of your wound? The word empath, while validating, can become a beautiful cage, a cage that can subtly encourage a passive state of being, a story that says your sensitivity is something that happens to you, rather than a powerful force you can learn to wield. This is a critical stage in your shadow work journey. It is the graduation from a label to a skill set. In this conversation, we will not be taking away your gift. We will be showing you how to finally master it. First, we will explore why the empath label can become a cage that limits your growth. Second, we will illuminate the path of your evolution, the path from the wounded empath to the sovereign empath. And third, I will give you a simple, profound cognitive shift that will place the remote control for your gift back into your own hands. It is time to stop being a victim of your gift and start being the master of it. There is a moment of profound relief when you finally find the word for what you are. For years, maybe your whole life, you have moved through the world feeling a kind of invisible static, an emotional background noise that others do not seem to notice. You feel things deeply, the unspoken tension in a quiet room, the flicker of sadness behind a friend's smile, the exhaustion of a stranger in a grocery line. You absorb it all. And for years, you had no name for this. You just thought there was something wrong with you. You were too sensitive. You were too emotional. You were broken. And then, one day you heard the word, empath. And in that moment, the universe clicked into place. It was a homecoming, a validation that reached into the deepest parts of your soul. You were not broken, you were just perceiving a different layer of reality. The label was a sanctuary, a raft in the overwhelming ocean of feeling. It gave you an identity, a tribe, a story that finally made sense. For Chloe, our 35-year-old oncology nurse, discovering the word empath was life-changing. It explained everything. It explained why she would come home from a shift and feel a grief that wasn't hers. It explained why she could feel a patient's unspoken fear even when they were putting on a brave face. The label gave her permission to accept her sensitive nature, instead of fighting it. It was a necessary, beautiful, and healing first step. But here is a truth that is rarely spoken about the healing journey. Any identity, even a healing one, if held onto too tightly, eventually becomes a cage. A beautiful, comfortable, validating cage, but a cage nonetheless. A label that once explained your wound can become the very thing that prevents your full healing. Let's look at the bars of this cage. The first bar is passivity. The identity of empath can subtly imply that your sensitivity is something that happens to you. It frames you as a passive receiver of the world's emotions. It gives you a reason for your exhaustion, a noble reason.
I'm so drained because I'm an empath. I can't go to that party because I'm an empath. It is true, but it is a truth that can create a sense of powerlessness. It can become a story where you are the victim of your gift rather than the master of it. The second bar is a fixed identity. A label creates a box, and the journey of the soul, the deep work of Carl Jung, is about moving beyond all boxes. After our last conversation, you have begun to reclaim your sacred anger. You are learning to build fierce boundaries. But this creates a cognitive dissonance, a crisis. How can a gentle, soft, peacekeeping empath also be the person who feels that sacred fire of rage? How can the person who feels everyone's pain also be the person who says with unshakable clarity, "No, that is not okay with me"? The old label does not have room for this new power, and so to protect the identity, you might unconsciously sabotage your own growth. You might retreat from your anger, telling yourself, "That's not very empath-like." The label that once gave you permission to be sensitive can now deny you permission to be powerful. And the third bar is the most subtle. It is a form of spiritual victimhood. It is a story where you are the sensitive, awakened soul living in a harsh, unfeeling world. This story can feel very special. It can feel very true. But it is a story that separates you. It is a story that unconsciously says, "I feel more, therefore I am more evolved." It is a subtle form of the moral superiority we have spoken of, and it prevents you from taking the final step in your evolution, the step of radical responsibility, the step that says, "Yes, I feel the world deeply, and it is my job to learn how to manage my own energy within it." In the world of Jungian psychology, any identity that becomes too rigid, too absolute, has become a function of the ego, not the self. The ego needs labels to feel safe. I am good. I am an empath. The self, your deep, whole, authentic center, has no need for labels. It is a dynamic, evolving process. It is both the sponge and the shield, the river and the rock. The label empath was a crucial stepping stone. It was a boat that carried you from the shore of self-blame to a new island of self-acceptance. But you were never meant to live on that island forever. The journey requires you to get out of the boat and learn to walk on the land of your own sovereignty. So, what if this isn't an identity you have to discard? What if it is a school you are meant to graduate from? A school where you have learned the curriculum of sensitivity and are now ready to move on to the master's program of skill. So how do we graduate? How do we move from the raft to the shore? The journey begins by understanding the profound difference between two archetypes, the wounded empath and the integrated empath. This is not a judgment, it is a developmental map. The wounded empath is not a failure. It is simply the first stage of a powerful evolution. It is where most of us begin. Let us look at them side by side. Let us see which one feels more like home to you right now. The wounded empath experiences their sensitivity as a state of being. It is who they are. Their energetic boundaries are porous, like a sponge. They unconsciously absorb the feelings of those around them, often unable to tell the difference between their own emotions and the emotions of others. Their motivation, deep down, is driven by the fawn response, by the need to avoid conflict, to keep the peace, to be liked, to be safe. Their relationship to their own anger is one of fear and repression. Anger feels like a threat to their identity as a good,
gentle person. And so their core identity statement is, I am my sensitivity. To lose it would be to lose myself. Now, let us look at the next stage of evolution. The integrated empath, or as I prefer to call them, the sovereign empath. The sovereign empath experiences their sensitivity as a set of skills. It is what they have. Their energetic boundaries are not porous walls, but flexible, intelligent membranes. Like the high-tech windows in a modern building, they can choose to let the light in while keeping the noise and the pollution out. They can observe without absorbing. Their motivation is not driven by fear, but by integrity and a desire for authentic connection. They are not trying to be liked. They are trying to be true. Their relationship with their anger has been transformed. They no longer fear it. They have befriended it. They see it as a sacred tool, the guardian of their boundaries, and the fuel for their truth. It is the fire that keeps the compassionate heart warm, not the fire that burns the village down. And so their core identity statement is, I have the skill of deep empathy, and it is my sacred responsibility to manage it, protect it, and wield it with wisdom. For years, finding the word empath felt like a relief. It meant I wasn't crazy. But then I realized I was using it as an excuse. I can't go to that concert. I'm an empath. I'm exhausted from this meeting because I'm an empath. It was a story of powerlessness. The turning point for me was when I made a single conscious shift in my internal language. A shift that I invite you to try on right now. Instead of thinking, I am an empath, I started practicing the thought, I have deep empathy. I am is a fixed identity, a state of being, a cage. I have is a skill, a tool, a capacity. That one small shift from am to have returned all of my power to me. My exhaustion after a difficult meeting was no longer a symptom of a permanent condition. It was the result of a skill I had used, perhaps overused, and now I simply needed to recharge. It moved me from being the victim of my gift to being the steward of it, the manager of it, the master of it. This is the graduation. It is the core of this shadow work. It is the realization that your sensitivity is not a passive affliction. It is an active perceptual tool. It is a highly advanced internal radar system. Think of an air traffic controller, sitting in a dark room surrounded by screens. That is you. The wounded empath is the controller who believes they are the blips on the screen. They are merged with every plane, every storm, every potential collision. It is a state of overwhelming chaos. The sovereign empath is the controller who understands that they are not the blips. They are the ones sitting in the chair. They can see the whole map. They can feel the urgency of a potential problem, but they are not panicked by it. They have tools. They have procedures. They have a calm, clear voice to speak into the microphone. They can guide one plane to a higher altitude, ask another to slow down, and bring a third in for a safe landing. They are using their perception, not being drowned by it. This is the evolution you are being called to. Not to turn off your radar. The world needs your radar now more than ever. The call is to step back from the screen and take your seat in the control tower.
to realize you are the operator. But to be a skillful operator, you need to know your tools. You need to know your console. What are the specific skills of this master's program? What are the buttons and levers the sovereign empath uses to navigate the crowded skies of human emotion? There are 3 of them: the discerner, the alchemist, and the channeler. And learning their function is the beginning of your true mastery.
So you have taken your seat in the control tower. You are no longer the blip on the screen. You are the observer. But a master controller is not defined by their radar. They are defined by their tools, by their skill set. The journey from the wounded empath to the sovereign empath is the journey of mastering 3 sacred skills. These are not techniques to numb you. They are practices to empower you. The first and most fundamental skill is that of the discerner. The discerner learns to ask one simple, life-altering question in any given moment. Is this feeling mine? The wounded empath assumes every feeling they experience originates within them. Let's go back to Chloe, our nurse. The old Chloe walks into the room of a family who has just received devastating news. The air is thick with grief, fear, and despair. As a wounded empath, she breathes it all in. It floods her system. She feels their grief as if it were her own. She goes home that night carrying the weight of that family's sorrow. She is exhausted, weepy, and cannot connect with her own partner because she is still living in that hospital room. She has been psychically contaminated. The sovereign empath, the one who is practicing the skill of the discerner, walks into the exact same room. She feels the same thick air, the same wave of grief, but in the quiet of her own mind, she asks the question, is this grief mine? The answer comes back, clear and quiet. No, this is theirs. This one small act of discernment creates a tiny sacred space between her and the feeling. She is no longer drowning in it. She is witnessing it. And because she is not drowning, she can be of true service. She can hold a hand, not with shared panic, but with grounded compassion. She can offer a quiet presence, not a chaotic absorption. She leaves the room, and in a moment of conscious intention, she visualizes leaving their grief with them, where it belongs. She goes home, and she is free. This is the first skill, to discern. This leads us to the second skill, because what do you do with the feelings that are yours? The wounded empath drowns in their feelings. The sovereign empath learns to become the alchemist. Alchemy, in a Jungian sense, is the art of transforming a raw, chaotic emotion into wisdom. It is a 3-step process. First, you must feel it fully. You allow the anger, the sadness, the joy to be present in your body without judgment. Second, you witness it without becoming it. You step back into the seat of the observer. You say, "Ah, there is the anger," instead of "I am angry." Third, you ask it for its gold. You approach the feeling with curiosity and ask, "What is your message for me? What truth are you trying to show me?" Let's imagine Chloe has had a long, grueling shift. Her own anger and frustration are simmering. The old Chloe, the wounded empath, would either suppress it, "I shouldn't feel this way, I'm supposed to be caring," or misdirect it by snapping at her partner when she gets home. The new Chloe, the alchemist, takes 5 minutes in her car before she drives home. First, she feels it. She feels the tension in her shoulders, the heat in her gut. She gives the anger permission to exist. Second, she witnesses it. This is the energy of a dozen unmet needs from today. Third, she asks it for its gold. What do you need me to know?
And the anger whispers back, "You need to ask for that transfer to a different ward. This environment is no longer sustainable." The anger is not a problem. It is an oracle. The alchemist does not fight the feeling. She harvests its wisdom. This brings us to the third and most masterful skill. It is the skill of the channeler. The wounded empath believes their empathy is an on-off switch that is permanently stuck in the on position. The sovereign empath learns that their empathy is a dimmer dial, a volume knob, and they are in control of it. This is not about becoming cold or unfeeling. It is about conscious modulation. It is about choosing where to direct your most precious resource, your deep, compassionate attention. When Chloe is with a patient who is genuinely scared and in pain, she can choose to turn that dial up to a 9 or a 10. She can open her heart fully, offering her complete presence, because she knows she has the skill of the discerner to release the energy afterward. But when her manipulative cousin calls to complain about the same self-made drama for the 10th time, Chloe can make a different choice. She does not have to hang up the phone, but she can consciously turn her empathy dial down to a 2. She can listen politely. She can observe. Ah, there is the victim story again. But she does not absorb. She does not merge. She keeps her energy, her life force, for herself. She protects her well. This is the ultimate graduation. The realization that you are not a passive instrument played by the world's emotions. You are the musician. You choose the instrument. You choose the volume. You choose the song. This is the shift from a label to a skill set. A skill set that allows you to be in the world with an open heart, but a protected soul. A skill set that transforms your greatest vulnerability into your most profound and sustainable power.
Today, we have stood at a crossroads of identity. We have honored the label of empath, the raft that carried you to this shore. And we have had the courage to see the cage it can become. We have drawn a map from the wounded empath, defined by what happens to them, to the sovereign empath, defined by what they consciously choose. The answer to the question that began this conversation, if I am not just a gentle empath, then who am I, is now clear. You are the air traffic controller. You are the blacksmith. You are the musician. You are not the storm. You are the lighthouse that stands within it. This is not a loss of your identity. It is a profound homecoming to your power. You are not losing your gift. You are finally taking your seat as the master of it. Your deep feeling is not a weakness to be managed. It is a sophisticated skill set to be honed. The skill of the discerner who knows what is theirs to carry. The skill of the alchemist who transforms pain into wisdom. And the skill of the channeler who chooses where to direct the sacred current of their compassion. This is the essence of this stage of shadow work. It is the graduation from a passive state of being to an active art of living. So I want to leave you with a practice, a single, simple shift that is the very key to this graduation. It is the practice we spoke of earlier of changing your internal language. Your invitation for this week is to become a gentle detective of your own thoughts. Notice every time you think or say the words, "I am an empath," especially when it is used as a justification for your exhaustion or your pain. And when you catch it, gently, without judgment, rephrase it. Try on the new identity. Instead of, "I'm so drained because I am an empath," try, "I feel drained right now because I have been using my skill of deep empathy and now it is time to recharge. Instead of, I have to avoid that person because I am an empath, try, I have the skill of perception and it is telling me that person's energy is not aligned with mine. I will choose to protect my own. Do you feel the difference? The first statement is the story of a victim. The second is the decision of a master. This is not just a word game. This is how you reprogram your nervous system. It is how you shift thought by thought from a person who is at the mercy of their gift to a person who is in partnership with it. This is your path to sustainable power. So I invite you now to make this graduation real, to declare this new empowered identity, to cast a vote for the master within you. Write in the comments below as a declaration to yourself and a witness to this community. I have empathy as a skill, not a weakness. By sharing these words, you are stepping out of the boat and claiming the shore as your own. But as you stand on this new shore, as you stop spending all your energy just trying to stay afloat, you may notice something. A vast surplus of energy, a newfound sense of space within you. The energy you once used to absorb the world's pain, to manage your own overwhelm, is now free. Free for what? This is where the journey becomes truly joyful, because that free energy is now available for a new kind of exploration, not to explore more wounds, but to go on a treasure hunt. A treasure hunt for the most brilliant, powerful, and life-affirming parts of yourself. The parts you had to bury long ago because you were told they were too much. The gold you were taught to hide. In our next conversation, we will take our first step into this dazzling territory. We will begin the search for your golden shadow.